So in that year, this is the foundational year of the Muslim calendar. The Prophet, in moving to Medina, gained strength even though he went there and his followers completely destitute, because the Meccans did not let them go without taking all of their property. Interestingly, the Quran suggests that the Muslims were actually expelled from Mecca and that it wasn't entirely by their own choice that they migrated. So there was some pressure on them. In any case, they came here to a place where there were all these clans and where everyone was very clannish. People were extremely clannish. And so when some extraneous group comes that doesn't even belong to the Khazraj or the Aus, what possible hospitality could they expect? And therefore the Prophet, when the people came, he did what was called the brothering, in that he took a Meccan and a Medinan and said, okay, you two are brothers. And he had information about the status of the various Medinans, so he didn't put any Meccans on as a responsibility for a Medinan who couldn't afford it. And so as a result, the Medinans, who had already become Muslims and had sworn allegiance to the Prophet, they took in the Meccans in this period, and that was called the brothering, and he overcame the tribal difference, because what was emerging was a new loyalty to the Prophet Muhammad and the religion of Islam that superseded the loyalty to the tribe. And what some of the Medinans saw as the benefit of that was that they wouldn't have to be broken up into little warring clans anymore, but they would improve the situation that they lived in. And indeed that happened. So in the balance of the Medinan period, the Prophet's power grew politically. At the beginning of the period, there's something called a document which even non-Muslim Orientalists almost universally acknowledge as authentic. It is called the Constitution of Medina, although that's a modern name for it. And the non-Muslims' attraction to it is that it does not portray the Prophet in the commanding position that he later attained in Medina, but it portrays him in a lesser status of having come to the oasis as arbiter or arbitrator. So he was to be the judge of the place. And the Quran refers to this because it says if they come to you, judge between them, or refuse to judge between them. You know, if you judge between, if you refuse to judge between them, they can't hurt you any. And if you judge between them, judge justly. Basically, that's the message. So in other words, the non-Muslims could also come to him, and he was sort of like the judge. And if you think of the biblical judges in the book of Judges, where there was not much political authority in the Israelite community in the Old Testament at that time, so that was parallel to this situation very much. And he would be the judge, but he did not have imperium. That is, he didn't have the power to command, except the Muslims. He had the power to command them, of course, but that was due to revelation, not due to the treaty.
The idea of the Prophet going to Medina, which is in a state of strife there, was he, I mean, I know it sounds like he was either expelled or forced to leave Mecca, but was he instructed to go to Medina? Or was that a stroke of brilliance, realizing the situation, everything unsettled? Or was he just luck into the situation?
Yeah, it's the Muslim belief that Allah himself, God himself, inspired the Prophet to go to Medina, and that he did not do that until he was commanded to do so by God. So he went from being in 622 the arbitrator of Medina, the judge of the place, and not having the power of command, by various steps to becoming the ruler of the place. So that by the year 6, he was able to take another oath of allegiance from the Muslim people, that is the oath of Hudaybiyah, and his sovereign power in the oasis became complete. And by the time of his death, the inhabitants of Medina were largely, but not quite entirely, Muslim, so that most of the people of Medina had become Muslims.